Well, hey, dude, how are you?
I'm doing really well, man. Thanks for having me.
First off, I need to say, magnificent beard,
Thank you, man.
like a
I do
ridiculous
I do
beard.
get a lot of compliments on that, man.
I bet, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because like I feel like anyone who has like any facial hair, they feel like they need to like say to somebody like, "Oh, well done, like good job."
Yeah, this is about 6 months. We started in September. I actually got in a beard competition with some people on Twitter. And
6 months. That's six
yeah.
months. Dang, yeah,
Yeah.
I couldn't do that in 6 months. There's no way, man. There's no way. You're like actually, it's a couple days. It's like just a few
Yeah, just a
days.
couple days. I shaved last Saturday.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Exactly. Well, hey man, I'm super excited to have you on here. I think what you do is definitely something that I don't know a lot about, and a lot of people don't know a lot about. I'm gonna have you kind of talk, obviously, all about like how you got into streaming and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I kind of want to talk a little bit about first, like what are some of the things like in your life, some of the things that maybe you did before streaming, that have kind of prepared you for what you feel like maybe even just the social media side of things. It doesn't have to be streaming. Like, what are some of those things that made you kind of an entertainer?
Well, actually, before I started streaming and YouTube and all that stuff, actually, I was a pretty quiet and reserved guy. I was, in a social situation. I didn't really talk to a lot of people unless I really knew them and stuff like that. So, really, streaming has kind of brought me out of my shell, and I've noticed that
Wow.
even in my real life now. Like if I go to my son's sporting events or anything like that, I'm like a social butterfly now, and it doesn't bother me to talk to anybody, whether they're strangers or whether I've known them for years now. So it's definitely brought me out of my shell.
Yeah, that's really interesting because sometimes you find people like, oh, I did this like this form of entertainment before, like maybe like for me, I played music before, and then I kind of was like, oh, this was just
Right.
a natural. I love doing like creating, so this was a natural thing to do. Um,
Hmm.
but that's really interesting that it brought you out of your shell.
Yeah. I've always been a gamer. I've been a gamer my whole life, and most of my other friends that I had in high school and everything, they outgrew it, and they don't play games anymore. And so, really, I'm the only guy that I know that streams or that plays games at all. So it's really a rare thing around here in my small town. And so the common question I get is like, why do you game? There's no money in that. I'm like, well, I don't do it for money. I just do it because I grew up playing games and that's what I love to do. So
Yeah, and I think that's kind of something that maybe a lot of people who get into streaming nowadays because it's kind of like it's really like a sexy thing to do. You know, like a lot of people like
yeah,
they kind of they don't have that as much that you find when you talk to people. It's a lot about like I want to build, a business. I want to build this. I want to do this, and what it comes down to is like, oh, I've seen the opportunity when it comes to financially. If I build a community on some sort of
right.
social platform, that I'm going to be able to, I'm going to be able to, make a living. And I
Totally.
think what's interesting when you see that passion is I'm sure that's like I don't know how long you've been streaming all that
Well,
kind of stuff, but I mean I'm sure that's kind of driven you, kept you driven.
yeah, and I think that's everybody's dream when they start out. They're like,
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
man, I want to do this full time. I want to make, be able to quit my job and just, wake up in the morning and start playing games and make content, and that's going to be my full-time job. So yeah, I think everybody kind of has that goal in mind, and I would love to get there. I'd love to make Twitch partner and start getting some sponsorships, stuff like that, and be able to do that. But
Yeah.
my ultimate goal isn't really to do that. My ultimate goal is to do what I do on Twitter and use my streaming platform to help promote indie games. I mean, because that's what I love doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about like what was that journey? So obviously, streaming has brought you out of your shell, but how did that kind of come about? When did you were you watching streams a lot? Were you what was your kind of story there?
Yeah, I kind of got into it. I decided December of 2018 to start making that I wanted to maybe start making some YouTube videos. And that's what I did. So I started playing like Call of Duty. Well, I had been playing Call of Duty. So I just started making videos on it and just putting a few out there on YouTube and stuff and kind of feeling it out and see how it went. So I got Twitter to help kind of build my YouTube channel, and
Yeah.
it went pretty well. But the only reason I couldn't stream was because of my internet. I live out here in the middle of nowhere,
Mm.
and it's just there's very limited internet. So I actually went ahead and got my Twitch channel. That way I could watch some streams and kind of see how it went and everything. And I actually met a guy, Uncle Unicorn, and I met him on Twitter and Twitch. And I actually just fell in love with his style of streaming. And that's when I finally decided, like, man, I have to make this happen. So I started hounding my internet company like crazy. I actually mowed grass on the weekends all summer last year,
Yeah.
and was able to save up some extra money. I was going to buy a 40-foot antenna tower, like your grandma and grandpa's old TV antenna that they had.
Yeah.
I was going to buy a tower like that to actually put on my property so I could get up above the tree line and get a clear signal to their dish. And luckily, I had saved up enough money for it, but luckily they did one last site survey, and they found a spot about 200 feet from my house that they got a perfectly clear signal. So we
Wow.
put the satellite dish there, and I ran 200 feet of Cat 6 cable and finally had decent enough internet to stream. So I actually started streaming in September of last year,
Oh,
September
wow.
2019.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when was it that you started watching?
It was around January of 2019.
Yeah.
So, and that's when I started using Twitter to do what I do, support people. And just, I spend a couple hours a day, probably an hour or so in the morning and at least an hour in the evening, just messaging people, direct messages on Twitter, building those relationships. And I think that has ultimately helped me the most in growing, is forming relationships with people instead of just, saying, hey, can you follow me? I actually want to form a friendship with people.
Yeah, and I noticed something like that in your About Me. I don't know the exact wording, like kind of in your About Me for Twitch, just talking about your community being a family versus it just being like, viewer to streamer.
It is. Yeah.
Can you expand on that a little bit? Like what does that look like to you? Like what as you're growing your community, like what are you focused on? Like what are some of the things that you're like, you want in a community and some things you don't want?
Well, we try to keep out any kind of negative vibes, any toxicity, anything like that. We keep everything out of that. I have a couple of really good mods. So far, we haven't had any trolls or anything like that in the stream. But yeah, as far as the community, I'm a family-friendly guy. I keep my streams family-friendly. There's no cursing or anything. I did finally open myself up to a 18+ stream this past week. Because an indie developer hit me up and his game had some curse words, stuff like that. So I did change my rating just for that. But other than that, I keep it all family friendly because I don't want to limit my audience. My nieces and nephews, I'm big on family, and my nieces and nephews, they watch some of my YouTube stuff, and a couple of them do have Twitch accounts that they created just to watch me. So, I always try to keep things family friendly for them and for my community. And I think the community really embraces that and they respect that as well. So, I mean, we just try to keep positive vibes and support each other, and just, we are like family. I don't have any followers. I have friends and family. That's the way I look at everybody. When somebody drops into the stream, it doesn't matter if they're brand new or, if they've been there since September when I started. I treat everybody the same, and we're just a big family.
Yeah. I like that a lot because there's a lot of people who say that. There's a lot of people who say like, oh, you guys aren't viewers, you are like my family. But when I read that, or even when I was watching like back on some of your VODs, I saw like, I could feel that and just how you streamed. Like I could feel like a passion for streaming in general and a passion for being there, doing what you're doing. And now that I hear some of the backstory, like about what you've gone through to get to streaming, I can understand why that's probably a possibility, man. Yeah,
it's for interaction mainly. Like I said, I'm the only gamer I know in my area. So, I'm sure there's a lot of kids around here that do it, but like I'm the only guy that's 36 years old in this town, small town, Missouri, that plays games. So I was really craving the interaction that comes with streaming and YouTube and stuff like that. My family, they don't game. My wife, we might play like Crash Team Racing or some kind of retro racing game or something every now and then, but nothing regular. So yeah, I was just craving the interaction, and so I think that's really why I started. And when people, as you've noticed from the VODs, when people come into my stream, I recognize them. And that's from all the back work that I put in on Twitter and getting to know people. And it's like when so and so comes in, I'll start chatting with them just like we're best friends, and somebody else will come in. I'll start chatting with them, and I always try to make sure that I welcome everybody. And I'll even at times stop the stream or stop the game. I'll just pause it and I'll put the controller down, and we'll sit here and we'll just chat. And I'll make sure that I catch up with everybody's messages. I don't want to miss any message, because I've watched some big streamers when I first started. I was like, oh man, these great big streamers, I want to be like them.
Yeah.
You get in there and you might type 2 or 3 messages and you never even get noticed.
Yeah.
So I always want to make sure that everybody that comes in the stream gets noticed and gets talked to and feels like they're a part of it with me. So it's all about the interaction for me. That's why I do it.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, like, because I think everything that you do kind of speaks that, because the type of games that you play, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a very passionate community that is about like indie and retro like games. Is that true?
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
And I think
actually.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, please.
No, I was going to say, actually, the majority of my viewers are game developers.
Wow.
That come in and they help offer feedback, because like I can provide perspective from a gamer standpoint.
Yeah.
I've been doing it my whole life, so I know what makes a good game and what doesn't. And so I provide the gamer perspective, but all these developers that I've formed relationships with, they come in and they also give feedback and stuff to the game developer from the developer standpoint, like, hey, you could have coded this a little differently, or hey man, that was an awesome job of doing this. How'd you do that? So they all get in there and they start brainstorming, and sometimes they'll start talking about stuff and I'm like, wow, that's way over my head. But I'd love to see you guys doing it, So
you're like, so how does he jump again? They're like, the ones and zeros need to be like,
yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And like, there's sometimes, I guess I'll get that confused look on my face, like I have no clue what's going on, what they're talking about. And I'll see it in the chat and they'll say, yeah, that one went over ours head. He doesn't know what we're talking about. I'm like, yep, that's true, guys. I don't.
I'm the same way. Like somebody will talk about PC stuff, and like I know like a little bit, but once it gets to a certain point, you're just like, it's over my head.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a small town country bumpkin. It's just I'm not real technically inclined, so streaming is just the maximum of my mental capacity as far as computers go. So I actually met a guy on here, almost a year ago now. I met him pretty early on in my Twitter journey, and he's one of those guys. He's just always willing to help out and everything. And he actually remoted into my PC for me and helped me get things going. And
that's awesome.
So without him, really, I probably wouldn't be streaming at all, because I had no clue. I was lost.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I feel like everyone has that one person, or maybe they know a whole bunch, but a lot of streamers I've met have that person who helped them get set up and helped them kind of like go down that route, which is really, really cool. So I wanted so you started in September, and you're like you did the whole thing just to get to that point of starting in September, and then what did you the whole time you knew you wanted to play like indie games, or did you kind of like you're playing Call of Duty, but when did that decision come?
No.
And what was that like?
Well, I knew that I didn't want to stream Call of Duty or Apex or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because everybody and their brother streams that, so you really, really, really have to stand out or just be like a freaking god at the game in order to, be successful at it. So
yeah.
I'm like, no, I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. I want to do something different, and unique. So, I actually started streaming retro games, and like the Lost Vikings for Super Nintendo, Donkey Kong Country, those type of games, Mario Kart. So yeah, I started streaming that. But then the big break into the indie genre came when I played a game called Law Mage Academy.
Okay.
It's a great new indie game. It's still just in the demo stages. But the demo has taken off and it's winning awards and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's a super great JRPG, kind of the 16-bit era feel.
Okay, yeah.
And, we promoted it for about a month. Me and the developer, we started chatting and everything. We promoted it for about a month ahead of time. And finally, when the big stream came, it went off without a hitch. I mean, there were so many people in there, so many chatters. And I mean, it was just a huge success. And so it was at that time that I was like, I really like this indie gaming, because it was also more of a one-on-one personal relationship with the developer, as opposed to like something like Call of Duty or Apex or something. I'm never going to know those guys who make the game. I'm never going to meet them.
Yeah.
Whereas the indie developers, man, I get to talk with them on a daily basis, one-on-one and everything. So it's just really, really cool to stream indie games. And I built the platform up enough now with them, and they're a big part of it too. Without them, I wouldn't be here. We built it up now to where I have quite the resume, I guess you could say, in the indie community.
Yeah.
And so I actually have a backlog of games. Just these developers just keep sending me Steam keys and demos and everything like that, and want me to test their game. And man, it's just overwhelming, man. It just blows me away.
Is there so are you kind of giving notes to these developers on what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy? Like what does that process look like? Did they give you like forms that you should fill out, or did they give you like certain like testing, like I don't know, like a testing document, or do you kind of just tell them, hey, I like this part was there was a glitch or?
Yeah, I just do that in the like direct messages on Twitter or
Awesome.
on the stream, because a lot of times the streamer, or not the streamer, the game developer will either be in the chat
Okay.
watching on Twitch, or I'll actually do like we're doing here, and we'll have them in just the audio on Discord.
Yeah.
And we'll actually have them in there talking about the game as I play it. So I'm able to give them live feedback. If it's a game that I'm absolutely positive just by watching like trailers and short videos and stuff from the developer, if it's a game I'm 100% positive I'll like, I go into it blind. I won't test it or anything first. I'll just boot it up on the stream. And that way the developer gets my real first time reactions. What am I thinking exactly as
Absolutely.
I'm playing it? And I think that's what they like about it so much too, is that I don't sugarcoat things. If there's something I don't like, I'm like, I don't like that,
Yeah.
but most of the time, I'll be honest with you, man, every game that I've played so far has been a really good game that I've really enjoyed, man. A lot of them kind of have a retro feel to them, so it takes me back to being a kid.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, I'm 10, 11 years old again, and I'm playing a great game. So it's really awesome. I absolutely love everything about this indie gaming thing.
Wow. Yeah, it seems that, and that's kind of where, from the outside looking in, that's kind of what it looked like. And that's kind of something that for me, I play a little bit more like populated games and stuff like that. And so when I look at a game like that, you kind of, there starts to be questions. We'll talk about this kind of a little bit more at the end than like right now, because we're going to the kind of like tips and tricks kind of area and stuff like that.
Right.
But kind of starting to think through like, okay, how do I build an audience doing that? And I know we're going to talk a lot about Twitter in that portion, most likely. I don't maybe I'm wrong. But
that's a huge portion of it.
Yeah. Let's kind of table that for now, and we'll come back to that for sure, because I want to dive pretty deep into that, because there's a lot of people who will watch this or who are just streaming and maybe they don't even get a chance to watch this, but they are thinking they're thinking, if I play these small games, I can't grow an audience, or I can't find people that will also enjoy them. And so we'll talk through that. I'm really excited to kind of dive into that a little bit deeper. But something that I kind of want to know is, like, what are some things that you feel like your stream does differently? And what are some things that you feel like have kind of attributed to, like whatever in terms of success, or in terms of something that you've enjoyed, or however you define that? What do you feel like you've done, I guess, basically different and maybe even right?
Well, the way to be, successful in this industry,
Yeah.
I think, is to just be unique, and I think, there's only one of me, there's only one of you. So if we just be ourselves and just have a good time and have fun, and make everybody feel welcome, that's a big key, man, that a lot of people forget. I'll hop into somebody's stream and I'll start chatting with them, and it might be like 5 minutes before you see them look and turn their head and look at their chat. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to be checking chat all the time, and you have to make people feel welcome. And I think that's something that I really try to do more so than a lot of other streamers that I've seen. So I think that kind of helps out a little bit on, what makes me unique. And it's just actually the family friendly, there's not a lot of streamers that I see anyway that have the family friendly stream. There are some, and actually I love watching them and hanging out with them. Some of them actually stream with their kids.
Yeah.
That is really cool. And but yeah, I mean, when I raid somebody after a stream, we'll always get the warning, it's 18 plus. They're always cussing and carrying on, and that's just that. Yeah, that's maybe them being themselves, but I don't feel the need to do that in order to enjoy myself and make my viewers have fun. So I think that's also something else that sets me apart, is You won't hear a lot of stuff on my stream that you hear on other people's streams. So that's also something that makes me unique.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's something how I've always thought about that particular thing. My dad is actually a dentist, and so he used to have a goatee, right? And he used to have
Uh-huh.
this like he used to be like, oh man, I like how I look in a goatee. And then one of his friends, who's also a dentist, at one point told him, "Hey, nobody's ever gonna come to your practice and be like, man, I wish my dentist had a goatee." Right? Like no one's gonna be like, man, I wish my dentist had a goatee. But there might be somebody who comes to your practice and says, I'm not gonna ever come back here because my dentist has a goatee.
Right.
And
Like, can you imagine me like leaning over you with this big old beard and like it's getting on your face and everything? I mean, yeah,
yeah, dude, and
you don't want to limit your audience.
exactly,
That's what I was trying to say.
And that's a really good
Is
point. And there's things that because for me, I kind of say like I'm more like a I guess like PG-13 area, you know. But I think I think the same way about streaming. Like there's like with those kinds of things, there's no one's gonna be like, man, I wish he just said the F word more. But there might be people. I mean, there could be like the one off, but there's gonna be more people who are gonna say like, oh, like he's saying the F word, I'm out. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's kind of a big deal. I think it's something that when you're creating a stream and when you're creating a place for people to come and you're trying to build a community, you got to think about those types of things because if you do end up building a community and those things aren't set, then like what happens, you know?
Right. Yeah, and yeah, it goes back to, you know, why would you want to limit your viewers? Actually, there's so many Twitch users, and really, I think the majority of them are teenagers and down,
Yeah.
because you know they just like that's how they want to spend their free time. You know, a lot of people like they might go to a baseball game or they might go to the racetrack or something like that. You know, they'll do other forms of entertainment. Whereas a lot of kids nowadays they're glued to their phone. They want to watch people stream. So really, there's so many young viewers. If you're limiting yourself to an 18 plus only content, I mean, man, you're cutting yourself off from so many potential viewers. And so that's one of the main reasons that I keep it family friendly. Like I said, my nieces and nephews watching, you know, they're, 8, 9 years old. So definitely, I don't want to limit myself.
Yeah. I like that mentality. I think it's a smart mentality. And especially if that's who you are, right? Because there's some people who tell me like, "Oh man, I just wish I could just cuss," and like you're saying that I can't do that. Right. I'm like, I mean, if it's like you every day, then I mean, that's what you got to do.
Well, I'm not a total prude. You know, I do cuss. You know, my wife was in the Navy.
What? Are you kidding me?
She curses like a sailor sometimes, you know, and I do too sometimes. But it's just when you're on stream, you know, and you're out and like I don't even put stuff on Twitter. You know, all the tweeting that I do and everything. If somebody's like, hey, can you retweet this for me? If it's got anything like that in it that I don't put it out there in the public. You know, I just try to keep everything I do family friendly. And that's just the way I operate.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about Twitter. Let's say, so for me, I've been pretty bad at Twitter for a long time and not good at it at all. I did notice that you put out like kind of like a tutorial on Twitter, like recently on your YouTube and stuff like that. Is that something that you attribute to like really getting out there and getting to know people the most? Is that your kind of like main social media platform or what's kind of your take on that?
Twitter is definitely my biggest and most often looked at, you know, social media. And yeah, I get, you know, because I've only been on Twitter since like February of last year. So just right at a year now and on Twitter. And, you know, people ask me, I get so many messages from people, you know, and it's mainly new people. You know, they have like a couple hundred followers or something. But even like people that have a couple thousand followers, they're like, man, what are you doing to grow on Twitter? How are you getting your tweets out there to so many people, you know? And it's just you have to build up those relationships with people. And you know, in my new YouTube series, I just started it because I had so many people asking me. I decided, you know what? I'm going to put this on YouTube and I'm going to break it down for everybody. And I don't know how many videos there's going to be on it, but there's going to be quite a few, I think. And I just wanted to start with the basics this last week. And it covered completing your profile and putting your Twitch link or your YouTube link or whatever, a profile picture, a nice header or banner. You don't have to spend money on it. It could just be a picture from one of your vacations or something that describes you. And you'd be surprised how many people that are veterans of Twitter that don't have that simple step completed.
Yeah.
of completing a profile. And that's the very first thing people see when they see you on Twitter. Like if you follow them and they click on your icon to go check your page out, if there's nothing there when they first get there, I mean, they're not going to want to follow you back and stick around. So, so yeah, I'm just going to break everything down step by step in that YouTube series that I'm doing.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's something that I've noticed. A lot of my friends have done really well with Twitter in terms of bringing traffic not only to the stream but also just like an overall like branding side of things for their stream,
Right.
and for just their whole brand, right? Like I'm careful to say that everything like just funnels to your stream all the time. You know what I mean? Like because some people don't view it that
Right.
way, and some people view it like, hey, my presence is multi-platformed. You know what I mean? Like it's not just that platform.
And that's really the way to grow is multi-platform. You don't want to just focus on Twitch. If you're only on Twitch and the only time that you interact with anybody is while you're streaming, you're not going to grow. I mean, it's just not going to happen unless, like I said, unless you're one of those guys that just happens to grab people and people start spreading the word for you. But yeah, you have to put a lot of legwork in. So if you're just trying to do it on Twitch or just on YouTube or something like that, it's probably not going to happen. You have to use multiple platforms to grow yourself as a brand.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Basically, have to market yourself, basically.
Yeah, because I mean,
and that's another thing with.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
there,
go ahead, please.
That's another thing with Twitter is I see so many of these, like, I don't remember what the name of the Twitter page is, but like they're like, hey, send us $5 a month and we'll help you. We'll guarantee you this many views or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not not what you want. You want genuine interaction with people. And that takes a lot of hard work. And I see a lot of people that message me and ask me how I'm doing it. I look at their page and I'm not seeing them put in the legwork. And I'll tell them, like, you're not putting in enough work. You're not spending enough time getting to know people. You're doing follow for follow, or a sub for sub on YouTube. That stuff doesn't work. I think we all did that at the beginning, maybe. And I myself am guilty of it, but it didn't take me long to realize that's not the way to do it.
Yeah.
So in my series, I'm going to break it all down for everybody. The use of hashtags, the right ways, the wrong ways, all that kind of stuff to really maximize what you get out of Twitter.
I'm excited to see that, man. I think that's gonna be really, really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I think you can't argue with like the results that you've gotten from Twitter, and just even looking at even how we kind of this whole thing got organized, right? Is I just tweeted out and just said like, hey, like here's my interview with Luke and Larry, and then all of a sudden it's like flooded from people who support you on Twitter, like, hey, interview him next. I'm like, dude, I gotta get to know this guy, man. I'm like, holy Toledo, man, this is crazy, dude.
It's crazy, man. And that's all as a result of the community, the friends that I've made. Not like I said, not followers. If I was only doing follow for follow, nobody would have even chimed in and said, hey, you need to interview this guy.
Yeah.
But a lot of my friends did. So I mean, that's the difference, and that's what people have to focus on. And that's what they have to realize. You actually have to form relationships with people on a personal level in order to actually see true growth, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. I think that's something that like I need to get better at in terms of, especially with Twitter and like those other platforms that can be difficult, because I'm sure it can be very disheartening for a lot of people, because you post something that gets no interaction and you're like, well, I guess I'm just not meant for this platform. Like people think that way. And really what it is like, it's learning from people like yourself to like really see like, oh, okay, this is how you got to do it. It's like, when you're learning a job or something like that, like you need training on how to do it. And I think it's something
you gotta
that
be trained.
I think that's really, really cool that you're doing that. I'm excited for that for myself. And so I definitely, it's just Hour a Day Gamer on YouTube as well, right?
Yeah, and that's another thing is consistency across all your platforms, whether you're going to do Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever platform you're going to be using to market yourself and stuff, try to keep everything as close as possible to the same. I'm Hour a Day Gamer on every platform that I'm on. So, if I'm not on one, hopefully nobody goes and snags it up just in case I ever want to get to it. But, as of right now, everything that I do, I'm Hour a Day Gamer. So it's easy for anybody to find me and know who they're talking to. Because like there are some people who tune in on my Twitch streams and like I'll be talking to them, but I've come to know now that they're actually somebody else on Twitter. So I've had to make that adjustment whenever they first started watching me on Twitch. They're like, "Oh, hey, I'm so and so on Twitter." I'm like, "You might ought to work on that. That way, when somebody
Absolutely.
comes in, they know who they're talking to."
Absolutely.
So yeah, definitely same across all platforms.
I got a few questions for you to kind of like open up our like tips and tricks area. You've already like given some really like golden nuggets already, which is so cool. And I'm so stoked that like we got to talk about that piece of it for sure. But we're going to go deeper into that, like the Twitter side of things too. But I guess, so just kind of open up the tips and tricks area. The first question I have is, how often do you stream? So like like how often, like how many days a week? We'll start there, and then we'll talk about the actual streams, how long those streams are. So just first off, how many times a week do you stream?
I stream generally 3 times a week.
Okay.
Let's see, it's usually Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. I try to stick to that as best I can. And the reason it's so late is evenings are usually pretty hectic here, with the family and everything.
Yeah.
I'm big on family, man. And we like to spend time together. We'll eat dinner together. We'll talk about our days together. We can play board games or cards or watch TV. We occasionally will read a book series together. We'll take turns reading out loud to each other and everything. So yeah, I spend a lot of time with my family, and I put that above all else. So that's why I have to stream so late, and that's when like everybody goes to bed. So like whenever everybody goes their separate ways, my son's going downstairs and my wife's in the bed, that's when I come in here and do my thing. So yeah, it's just 3 nights a week. I think that's plenty. Hopefully maybe at some point I can maybe go to 4 nights a week or something like that as the schedule allows. But as of right now, I've been pretty consistent of 3 nights a week.
Awesome. And then how long are you streaming, like each time you're going live? About
most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, I'll keep it between an hour and 15 and an hour and a half. So somewhere in that ballpark. And that still, I actually do get some people that come in and don't really know me that well, and they'll say, "Hey, you're hour a day gamer, but your streams are an hour and a half." I'm like, yeah, sometimes that is true, but if I only stream 3 nights a week at an hour and a half a piece, that's only 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
Divided by 7 days in a week, that's still under an hour a day. So I still hold true to that.
Yeah, it's still true, guys. Don't worry, it's still true. We're not lying.
Actually, I get a lot how people ask me and they're like, "How did you come up with that name? Where did that come from?" It's kind of a unique name. It kind of sticks with you. Everybody remembers it easily. Everybody just calls me Hour. Like when I
really like that, by the way. That's such an easy thing to call you and remember, right? Like it's so simple.
Yep. Yeah, like they call me Hour just because like in their streams when they're streaming, it's instead of saying Hour a Day Gamer, it just calls me Hour. It started like that and happened and it stuck. So that's what people call me. But yeah, when I started wanting to do this, I was sitting there thinking, okay, what kind of name am I going to have? What am I going to call myself? I actually started on YouTube as Noob Camper 57 because I was only playing Call of Duty right then. Black Ops 4. That was the only thing I was playing. That was before the indie games, before anything. It was just PS4 Call of Duty. And I love camping. It makes people. It like got a rise out of people. It made people mad. I'm like, I'm not twisting your arm to keep coming in this window 10 times a match and getting killed when I've got it pre-aimed. So it was kind of fun to sit there and go back and forth with people in the lobby menu. So I was a Noob Camper 57. Then I'm like, you know what? Eventually I might want to change my play style, and I'm not camping at that point, so the name doesn't stick.
Bro,
so I wanted to.
I bet you. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I bet you there's still people looking for you. How pissed off they got, and so you probably just revealed yourself as the Noob Camper. They're like, this freaking Noob Camper, dude.
Yeah, I actually watched some YouTube videos of some campers, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to do it. It's gonna be so much fun.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But I was...
No, you're perfectly fine, man. We're just chatting here. That's awesome. I love doing interviews like this. So yeah, after that, I was like, you know what? I need something that's going to stick that I can use for years and years. So I got thinking. I looked at Call of Duty. Literally, that was the only game I was playing was Black Ops 4,
Hmm.
and I looked at my in-game stats, and I looked at it. I'd played 72 hours of Black Ops 4 over the lifetime of it, and it had been out for like it was something like 115 days or something like that. So it'd been out for a couple months, and or several months, and I figured that out. I averaged it up 72 hours in like 115 days or whatever it was, come up to like 47 minutes a day. And I'm like, man, 47 minutes a day. What am I going to do with that? So I rounded up
Yeah.
and hour a day gamer. And I'm like, oh, I mean, it's like a light bulb went off and there it was, man, hour a day gamer. So that's what I stuck with. And that's where it all started, man. That's where the name came from.
I love it. I love it. I think it's just so brandable, so easy, and no one's gonna have it right now. You know what I mean? Like no one's gonna have it, which is really cool. And that's why I went with like something like Loadedwombat, because no one's gonna have that. And it just like it's like my favorite animal, and I'm always drinking coffee. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's just good.
You're loaded.
Yeah, and so I think it's I think that's a great thing, because and people don't talk about that a lot, but because names, you kind of like you start to like forget how you made your name and how hard it was to come up with a name after you've had it for a while, And I think a lot of people try to come up with a name, and the problem is a lot of people, they not only come up with a name, but then they hate it a month later, and then they keep changing their name. They don't realize how hard that like hurts the brand, because you're starting over again, trying to build a different name.
Yeah, it's basically rebranding.
Absolutely. And so I think it's something, it's really cool that you put that much like thought into it, and it just ended up being like really, really catchy and like something that nobody would have. It's really, really cool. So,
well, like another perfect example is Kid Rock. Hey, when he was in his 20s or whatever, when his career was taking off, Kid Rock, he's awesome. Everybody loves Kid Rock.
Yeah.
Well, the dude's like 50 years old now. He's not a kid anymore. So the name doesn't stick with him, whereas I could still, no matter how old I get, I could be hour a day gamer. And I've had people ask me, what's going to happen if I end up doing this as a full-time gig, or like whenever I retire from work years from now and I'm able to play games more. I said, maybe the goal should be at one point to force me to change my name to 8 hours a day gamer or something like that. That way it changes the name just enough to where I stay true to it, but people still recognize it.
I think honestly, dude, I think it'd be cool if you just kept it. I think it'd be like cool. And then like you end up becoming full time and you're like, yeah, I was definitely hour a day gamer, but now we're a lot of every hour a day gamer. Well, cool, man. Awesome. I think, and the reason why I kind of asked like the amount of time you stream and those types of things, because when people are thinking about starting their streams and they're thinking about how do I like grow my stream, how do I go down this route, they see these streamers that are streaming like 10 hours a day and they think they have to do that.
Yeah. And every day too. Like you don't have to stream every single day to do it, man. You just don't.
Yeah, and I think that's what can be overwhelming for some people, but also it's not a maintainable thing. So for me, for 8 months, I did every single day, and I did about like 5 hours a day, like 3 to 5 hours a day for when I started. Wow. So I did about, like 8 months of that. And I love, like, streaming is something that I found that is just like, it's like everything to me. I love it so much that was, I didn't even feel it until like my wife started talking to me a little bit. Yeah. It was like, because I used to stream like nights right after I get home from like my sales job, what I was doing. I would stream nights like from like 5 p.m. on until like 10 p.m. And so my wife's like never seeing me, right? And so like, so we had a talk. We're like, okay, we can rearrange this. And like I had ended up leaving that sales job, and now I do like Lyft alongside of streaming and stuff. And so now I can kind of like move those times around, but it was interesting to see, like, I didn't have to do that in order to get growth. I actually picked the harder way to do it because I was spending so much time streaming. I wasn't building my other platforms to really feed into that. It ended up working for me, but I don't think that's the right path for everybody. And I don't think that's necessarily a maintainable path. And I don't think that's protecting against burnout.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to get burned out on it. Anytime anybody asks me, or like I see a tweet and it'll be like, hey, I'm getting really burnt out. What do you guys think I should do? Should I push through it or should I take a break? I always say take a break. Don't ever give up. Don't ever stop doing it completely. But it's okay and it's perfectly fine to take a break. Take a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever you need. Take that off, reset yourself, get back into the mindset, and remember why you started doing it in the first place, and then jump back into it. And maybe adjust your schedule a little bit. Don't try to like you just talked about. Don't try to do it 8 hours a day for 8 months or whatever. That's insane. Anybody would lose interest in something and get burned out on it doing it that much.
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely need to space it out a little bit.
Yeah, it was interesting because I got now honestly I'm still on a pretty hectic schedule because I take Sundays off, but every other day I'm going still about 5 hours. And it for me it works because I'm like I haven't lost any steam in terms of what I'm doing. And Sundays for me I relax and I do some YouTube content and then I come back and I'm going full speed ahead, And I think but I think it's you have to find the right schedule for you, and it has to work in terms of what you can possibly do. And I always tell people it's probably best to stream less in the beginning and create big, do something big and do something different with those streams to where people want to stay the whole time versus
unique.
Yeah. Versus oh, I'm just going to sit here and hope people watch, if you're doing something different, maybe they're going to really want to watch.
And that's really what it's all about is, being unique, being different, finding the exact schedule, the exact amount of time or whatever that works for you and works for your schedule, and forming those relationships outside of the stream is what is it's gonna bring people in and it's gonna keep them in. I don't know if we need to talk about this now, but when I stream, I don't judge the success of my stream off of how many bits got donated or how many subs I got that stream, or anything like that. When I get the report back from Streamlabs, the numbers that I always go to are, of course, I look at how long I streamed, but I look at the average view time, and that tells you that people aren't just stopping by, that they're actually sticking around. And my average view time is always really high proportionately to how long I streamed.
Yeah.
So if I stream for an hour and a half, my average view time is usually over an hour. That means people sat here at their desk or on their phone or wherever they're watching me from for over an hour, interacting with me.
Absolutely.
So that's the main number I look at. And I also look at the chat messages. Streamlabs is great about telling you how many chat messages came through. And I'll even go down and break that down to messages per minute. How long I streamed divided by how many messages I had divided by how many minutes I streamed.
Yeah.
And if it's usually it's double digits, man. So what that tells me is that not only are people dropping in, but they are sticking around and they are chatting up a storm, man. If I'm averaging 10 messages a minute, that is freaking crazy. And I mean, the chat is just going like crazy. And like I said, it's hard to keep up with sometimes. So sometimes I'll actually put the controller down and just chat for just a little bit to catch up. But yeah, man, so that's how I base the success of a stream. And I think that's another thing that helps make me unique from other streamers.
That's something I'm really, really passionate about. So for me, I've had something I've been saying with my community for quite a while for the people who are streamers in my community. And it's just this whole idea of F the numbers. Just literally when you're thinking about numbers, people are always either A, they're focusing on them too much when they're starting out, or B, they're looking at the wrong numbers like you were just saying. And I think that's the hard part is people look at these big streamers and they're like, oh my gosh, they hit these crazy numbers, or they find their friends on Twitter who share their numbers on Twitter. And they're like, oh my gosh, they got 100 subs that stream or whatever it is. Right. They're looking at these numbers and they're like, I'll just never attain that, and it starts to weigh at them. I guess my question to you is, when you think about numbers, I love that idea of looking at, the average view time. That's something that's really going to be a positive number that you look at, because even if you have only a few people in your stream for that time, you're going to see that, oh my gosh, those people still care enough to be here. And I have people no matter how many, I have people who care to be here for this long. I need to entertain them for that amount of time. So my question to you is, how would you talk to somebody who is really kind of down about their numbers, and what would you say to somebody who who's been like kind of just eaten up by the numbers, and they're like, I just, my numbers are going down, or my numbers have just like plateaued. Either
Right.
A, what would you do if you felt that happening for yourself, or B, like what are some mindset things that you would tell them?
Well, first of all, I always tell them to be positive more than anything. You're living, you're breathing. Whether you had a good day or bad day, always think positive, man, because it sure beats the alternative. We could be 6 feet under.
Yeah.
So any day you're here, you're able to boot up a game or whatever. It's a good day, man. Just gaming is a great way to forget the real world, so to speak. So yeah, it definitely is. Every day is a good day when you can sit down and play a game. So I actually get this a lot. People will send me direct messages again on Twitter. They'll just send me a message, and I spend so much time messaging people, and that's where the views and that's where the friends and that's where everybody comes from, is taking that time to do that and build a personal relationship with everybody. But yeah, I have them ask me. They'll say, "Hey, Hour, I'm having a hard time right now. I'm really struggling to get affiliate. I'm at like 2.5 or 2.6, and one of those viewers is me on my phone. I got my phone pulled up. It's just like, man, I'm really wanting to give up, or I'm in a lull. And I'll just say, hey, man, you got to be positive. And I said, don't look at the numbers. I said, bottom line is, if you're not streaming at all, let's say you're just sitting at home and you're sitting there and you're playing your game, you're going to have fun, right? So you may as well hit go live and have some fun. And if people drop by, that's great, man. Interact with them and have a good time. But regardless of if they drop by or not, you're having fun. You're just doing what you would normally do. You're just be yourself and just play a game, man, and have fun and enjoy it. And it doesn't matter how many people drop by. That's the biggest thing I tell people is they can't look at the numbers. They have to look at how much fun they're having. And if they look at the numbers and they're not what they expect, they're not what they see on other people's streams. And like you said, when people share a picture of something on Twitter or Instagram that they had, 10 viewers that stream and everything's going great, well, here I am at 2 viewers and I'm feeling down. You can't look at the numbers.
Yeah.
Just boot up your game and have some fun, man. And if people come in, that is absolutely awesome. And if they don't, hey, you still had fun playing a game. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, and I 100% agree with you. I love your outlook on streaming, and I love how you like approach it. It's very similar to what I do, because for me, when I first started, it was all about, okay, how can I grow these numbers? That's what it was. It was all about, how can I see my average viewer count go up? How can I see my follower count go up? How can I see my sub count go up? And like basically all those numbers, how can I just see arrows going up? Right. Like it became this juggling act of like, okay, what can I do to make this happen? And I slowly started to see myself do things that I wouldn't normally do, and I was trying to like do, like, for me, I was like trying to do like playing with viewers situations where I don't really normally like would want to do like, oh, this big playing with viewers type thing. And that's just not who I am. It's more of like, I would want to create some sort of different type of content, something like what we're doing right now, And I think for me, I saw myself trying to just build those numbers versus really create content that I felt like people wouldn't want to miss. And that's kind of the crux of, like, for me, like when I think about a successful stream, if I did something different and I felt like I did something big, did something different, maybe even took a risk with my stream, that's where I'm like, oh man, this was a successful stream, versus like, oh my gosh, I had like, 30 people there, or I had 40, like whatever it is. I think it's something that people need to look at when they're first starting out. It's not about you hitting affiliate immediately. It's about you learning how to create content on a high level
and have a lot of fun doing it, man.
Absolutely.
And, something else, I watch a lot of streamers as well. And, I'll go in there and they'll have like, what do they call them? Stream decks. And, they have all these sound effects going on. I do have alerts set up, custom alerts and stuff like that. But like, they'll have like applause or, boos or moans or something, and they'll have party lights going on when somebody subscribes, and it's just full of energy and they're hyped up and they're screaming and they're yelling and they're dancing. Yeah. That's not me. Yep. And that's not what you're going to see in my stream. And I think a lot of people actually enjoy just having a laid back, chilled, relaxed time, and not having all that super high energy. But that's great. I love watching people that do that. But then I was watching one guy, and I can't remember his name, and I wouldn't say his name anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like it was just so over the top with all the effects, and it's like somebody could request a song, and like he would stop the stream and he'd dance and sing and everything. I'm like, it was kind of cool at first, but then it got a little old.
Yeah.
So people, I think, come to my stream just to kind of, just kind of relax and chill out. It's not going to be anything super fancy, with all that extra wingdings and stuff. So that's like a font in Microsoft Word or something.
That's so awesome.
But yeah, I mean, it's just a laid back stream. I'm actually getting ready to have some new overlays and like some stream graphics and stuff.
Yeah.
But again, that's just a background. That's not going to be anything that is going to like be over the top impressive or over the top redundant with the sounds and everything. It's just a simple backdrop. But
yeah, those things
so
like
far it's just been.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's just been me hanging out. That's all it is. People come in and they hang out and have fun.
Yeah, and a lot of times people think either their effects or their quality or those types of things will are the thing why people come, but really what those people are doing with those effects and the reason why they're attracting so many people is because they're using those creatively to fit their personality. Now, like you said, you'll find some streamers who just see that and they go, "Oh, I'm supposed to do that," and it's not who they are, and you can tell because on YouTube you can fake it. You can edit it out. You can kind of like edit certain things and do all these kind of things. We're live streaming and people can see every single like little thing our face does. They can see like how our mannerisms are. Like,
every
they can know.
Thing,
They know if we're being legitimate or we're not. And I really like that because when you're who you are and when you're creating content that like is absolutely ingrained in who you are, you're not, that content is not going to live alone forever. And I think that's what people need to understand. Right. And it's, I totally agree, man. I totally agree. So kind of going towards a little bit more like towards the like tips and tricks kind of area. Okay. I want to do two things. I want to talk about obviously some practical things that you see in terms of growing a stream and something I'm really interested in to really hear from you is how you've amassed the followers that you have on Twitch playing games that a lot of people haven't heard of. That's a really interesting piece of the puzzle to me. And then the other things are any other like mindset type things and kind of more like theory type things that you have for people kind of starting out or people who are just streaming and they want to kind of go to the next level.
Okay. Yeah, let's get into all that then.
Yeah.
What do you want me to start with?
I would say start with the practical. So start with I just speak on the side of your like your niche in terms of like indie and retro games. How have you what have you done to really get to the point that you've gotten to so far? In such a short time.
That is exactly what you need to do. You need to find your niche or however you say that word. You need to find that niche.
Yeah.
And for me, it's retro and indie. It started out as just retro, and it evolved into indie after that one stream with Lawmage Academy, and he was kind of popular, and he had been going to like gaming conferences and stuff in his country.
Yeah,
he's from the Philippines. He'd been going there in his country, so he helped spread the word about the stream afterwards. Like, oh man, this was so much fun. He's such a great guy, such a great streamer, all that. And so then other developers started finding me. And like I said, man, the most practical thing that anybody can do is just reach out to people and start making friends. Really, that's all it is. You just have to make friends and form relationships with people, whether it's people that enjoy Call of Duty games and you like them, find Call of Duty players and form those relationships with them. If you're an Apex pub stomper, find other Apex pub stompers and form relationships with them, and they'll want to come into your stream. For me, it was indie developers, man. I absolutely fell in love with talking to them on a one-on-one level about how they came up with their game and, what their inspiration was and everything. And I think a lot of them that have that retro feel, I grew up playing video games, so I love retro games. So a lot of these indie games have a retro feel to them, man, and I just absolutely love it. So once you find your niche, you have to find people within that group and start building those relationships with them. And that's where you'll find your viewers.
Love it, man. That's gold. If no one heard that, then they need to hear that. That's really, really good. Okay, so mindset wise, all right. So what are some like ways to keep a strong mindset when you're going, you're trying to stream and you got your phone in there, like what are some ways that you can keep your mindset going? You talked a little bit about it in terms of focusing on the content. Is there anything else that you would really share on that side of things?
I just, like I said, I'm just a positive guy. Sometimes my wife actually will get a little upset with me because I never show any like anger or negative emotions or anything like that. And, so for me, it's easy to have a positive mindset. But I think it's very important. You have to have a positive mindset and you have to enjoy what you're doing. If you're not enjoying it, like we talked about earlier, like you get burnout or whatever, if you're not enjoying it, you're probably not going to be successful at it. You can't force it. And that's another thing too, is these indie developers, when they send me their games and stuff, like I said earlier, if I'm 100% sure that I like the game, like just watching the videos and stuff, I'll go into it blind. But if I'm not real sure, I'll actually test the game first off stream, and I'll let them know like, I don't think that game's for me, because if I do try to play that game, I'm not going to have fun, and the viewers in turn are going to feed off of that, and they're not going to have fun.
Yeah.
So I think the most important part is to have a positive mindset and make sure you're having fun. Don't force it. You can't force it.
I love it, man. Okay, so we're going to be wrapping up here. We're almost at that hour point. I want to make sure I respect your time for sure.
Yeah, man, we're good to go.
It's been really good, man. It's been really good. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I do want to talk a little bit about what's going on in the indie community.
Yes, that's one thing I forgot to ask you about. I'm so sorry about that. I was going to ask you about Indie Dev World Order, that kind of stuff, all that.
Exactly.
So please speak on that.
Yes. The Indie Dev World Order started with just a single tweet. We wanted to kind of have a community where game developers could come and like brainstorm and collaborate and do game jams and stuff like that, and just kind of get to know each other and toss around ideas and see what's working for everybody, what's going on. There's global game jam events where they just make a little game within a weekend and put it out there for people to try. So yeah, we wanted to provide a Discord community and give people a place to come that was safe. It's family friendly and all that, all that good stuff. So it started up, and I actually got onto the Elder Council, as one of the leaders, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm the lead streamer. I'm the lead streamer for the organization now, and it's my job to find other indie streamers who, people who love indie games. You don't have to solely stream indie games, but like if you like the indie genre and you want to help these developers out, that's great. And I like to talk to people and find new people to bring in. But we've got over 800 people right now in the Discord, and it's game developers, writers, designers, animators, programmers, voice actors, you name it. And from all different game engines like Unreal Engine, Unity, Godot, RPG Maker. There's rooms for every single thing. And it's active 24/7 because we have people from around the world, with the whole time zone thing. So they're 24/7. You can hop on there and there's somebody in there chatting and talking. And it's just really, really awesome. And it, like I said, it started out as a Discord community, but we're actually ready to take it to the next level. We're actually going to be turning it into an entity, a legal entity.
Wow.
And making it an official organization. And we're going to, like I said, some big things coming. We've actually announced our own Indie Con, our gaming con, like there's Twitch Con or whatever,
Yeah.
It's going to be the Indie World Order Con, and it's going to be in Miami in the summer of 2021. So not this summer, but next summer. We want to give ourselves plenty of time to get everything organized and make the first one really great. And so yeah, it's coming next summer, and it's going to be really, really awesome. It's going to be, like I said, in Miami. There'll be people from all over the world. We've had a lot of great feedback. We sent out a form for people to fill out, whether or not they'd be able to make it, how much money they would expect to pay, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
for travel and hotel and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to try to do as much fundraising and stuff like that as possible to keep the cost low for people as far as like ticket prices and all that stuff and the stuff we can bring. Man, there is so much talent in this community. I mean, I've met so many great people, and I like to think that I've got a pretty good relationship with just about everybody in there that I've actually talked to. And it's just so much amazing things happening with the indie genre. And our main goal, like I said, is to provide a safe environment for people to come in and talk about their games they're making and what they've got going on.
Wow.
But we want to eventually get up to the level of AAA games. We want people to, like kids for their birthday or for Christmas on their list. We want them to say, hey mom, hey dad, hey Santa, there's a new indie game coming out this year. I want to try it. I want to get it. When it comes out, I want to buy it. And, instead of, hey, Call of Duty's coming out, I want to buy it. No, we want to be right there with the AAA games, and we want to bring indie gaming to the forefront. And we've got a lot of big things happening, and we're going to try to really make it happen.
Wow. That's huge, man. I love that. It's so crazy to think like what can start from like a tweet, right? And just seeing like what you guys have built from that is a very powerful thing. Cause I was looking into it, like kind of preparing for this interview and everything like that. And that's why I was so frustrated I didn't ask about it yet. But it's such an interesting thing because that is the power of finding your niche, okay? It's the power niche. Okay? It's the power of finding that, because not only do you find a place, to find viewers and all that kind of stuff, but there's something priceless that happens where you get to build relationships that are really, really deep rooted in something that you believe in, but also something that you enjoy so much. And I think that's a testament to anybody out there who's like looking to stream and create a community. You can.
Right.
You absolutely can in something that you're passionate about. Don't try to be somebody else and go and do some other game because you think it's going to be whatever. Do something that you believe in. And I think one thing I wanted to ask you about this, obviously, I want to make sure that we give like people, the right avenue to get towards that if they want to go towards that, if they're watching. But I guess for you, I know that you've kind of talked about you're going to be retiring in the next 10, 15 years. Is that something?
Yeah, I got about 15 years left. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that kind of the route that you want to go, is really like diving deep into kind of like, gaming and indie games and really kind of pushing that forward. And that's kind of what you're passionate about doing after that?
Man. Heck yeah. That's exactly what I want to do when I retire. And I've got, a pension coming in or whatever, and I've got time to where I can actually sit and play games or be on the computer creating content or whatever 8 hours a day. I would absolutely love to do that, and I can't wait for that. That is going to be awesome. That'll be a great day.
Yeah, and I really do hope for you guys, like as an organization, everything like that, that even possibly happens earlier. I think it's something that's for me. I think I'm stoked that we got to do this interview, man, because when people think about doing something they love, it doesn't have to be where they just like sell out and do everything that they have to, like they've got to leave their job. They've got to do this. They got to do this. You can really find the time to do something that you have. And the fact that you're so passionate about people seems like a centerpiece of a lot of that. And so I think it's cool, man. I think it's really cool.
That's actually one of the biggest things that I get from people, especially like newcomers who just happen to find me somewhere on Twitter or Twitch. Somehow they find me and they watch a stream for just a little bit. I'll always, not always, but a lot of times I'll get a message on Twitter or a whisper on Twitch. They call them whispers. And say, hey man, I just happened to pop in tonight and I was just lurking. I wasn't chatting or whatever, but I wanted to say I enjoyed your stream. And I think it was really awesome, and I'm going to be back. So those kind of messages after a stream, that's where it hits home, man. It's like, okay, I did my job tonight, and I entertained somebody, but two, I made them feel welcome and made them feel like part of the family. So, I love getting messages like that, and it happens more often than what I would have ever expected.
Yeah.
So it's just really, really cool, man.
Well, cool. We've come to our last thing for the day, all right? And this is like a really hard question, so if you can't answer it, that's totally fine. If you want to pass on it, it's totally fine. But
And
it's
then
something I want to start.
is there
Oh
any
yeah.
viewer questions or anything like that?
We can't. We will go into that too. We'll do that right after this.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you.
Hit me with it.
It's kind of a hard one. Okay. So if
Okay,
you were
all right.
if you were to be remembered by one quote, what do you think that you would want to be remembered by? Or if there's like some kind of like a soundbite that you would want to be remembered by.
Does it have to be like a famous quote
No, it
or
could be
like
your own.
something?
It could be your own. It could be
Okay.
or if there is
Well,
a famous quote that you wanted.
I'll get it. Like something that would like be on my tombstone.
Yeah,
Um, would be like, he did it all with an hour a day. You know, I get that a lot. They're like, man, how do you do this with just an hour a day? I'm like, well, I'm an hour a day gamer. I didn't say I'm an hour a day social media user or, an hour a day this. I'm an hour a day gamer. That's what I did. For an hour a day, I play games. The rest of the time is everything else. So that's where I build my audience and that's where I build my relationships. But the hour a day is just the gamer. So the question I get a lot is, how do you do this in an hour a day? So I think that would be what I would want on my tombstone. He did this in an hour a day.
it's awesome, man. That's awesome. I love it. I did not because you're the first person I've asked that to, and I want to ask that to like guests going forward. But that was like the most perfect thing I could ever. That was like the most perfect way you could ever answer that. I want to open it up for questions from chat. So if you guys have any questions at all for our or just anything that we've talked about, we're gonna open up for that. And yeah, so if you guys have any questions, awesome. If not, totally understand. What's my quote gonna be? Law Tender. Yeah, we're interviewing Law Tender next week. So he's like, oh shoot, dude, I gotta know what the quote is. Yeah, man.
Start thinking ahead of time.
I know, right? Yeah, I know. That's gotta be. He's like, I gotta beat that. What? I think one
competition.
One question that I could think about that people might like ask, right, is how would you define like an indie game, and at what point does it not become like an indie game? Or like how would you define that genre?
Well, if it's a company like like I mentioned earlier, Treyarch or Activision or anything like that, that's not indie at that point. You're a big time company, and you've got hundreds of people working for you and stuff like that. Indie to me is either a solo developer that does all the stuff themselves, or a small studio. Like I know one group, they're called Antler Studios on Twitter. They're working on a great game. They've got a demo out now called Project Grove, and it's a great demo. But there's like 5 of them working as a team. So anything like that like they're self-funded or they use like a Kickstarter or some sort of crowdfunding. They're just regular people with regular jobs that make games on the side. So to me, that is what makes it an indie game.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Ask him how he keeps how he keeps good priorities. Interesting.
I don't really know. Other than like I do have a spreadsheet of, developers that like have hit me up with their game and stuff. So that way I can kind of keep track of everything. Like I said, I've got a backlog of games. So like I do kind of try to keep track of who's hit me up with games and what games I still need to try and stuff like that. So really, I guess that's how I do it. But always, no matter what, real life comes first and family first, and then the streaming and gaming.
Love it. This is kind of a funny one. Did you ever survive the Oregon Trail?
Once or twice. I don't remember for sure. I actually went to the National Video Game Museum. That is a thing. If you guys didn't know, that is a thing. It is a place. It does exist. It's in Frisco, Texas. It's about 20 minutes outside of Dallas, and it is just absolutely awesome. And I spent like 5 hours in there just wandering around by myself, looking at everything. And they actually had, there's so many different game systems that you could play, from years past. And they actually had a computer set up with Oregon Trail on it, man. The old school.
That's crazy.
80s and 90s or whenever the game came out, but like the original version of Oregon Trail. And I tried playing it, man. I spent like 45 minutes there trying to play it. And I died so many times of dysentery or starvation or whatever, it was just crazy. I'm like, oh, this game is so, frustrating, but man, it was a lot of fun. So only on occasion did I ever actually complete the Oregon Trail.
I love it. Because when I was a kid, we used to play it in computer class, which is the only time I remember playing it, and getting to play it. And
Right.
never got close.
That's where I first played it. Was in computer class.
Yeah. I never survived ever. So Bassman asks, does he consider Little Misfortune to be an indie game? Has he played it, or if so, did he enjoy it?
Little Misfortune. I don't think I've heard of that game. I don't think I've played it. So I'm gonna do the old school retro pen and paper, and we're gonna write that down. Little Misfortune.
I do that while I'm streaming too. I always forget things, so I have to write it down.
Yeah, I mean, I always have a pen and paper handy when I'm streaming, man. Because, like I said, a lot of my viewers are game developers themselves, and they'll be like, "Oh man, okay, this game reminds me of such and such game." So I'm like, "Oh, I better go check that game out." So, Little Misfortune, I will definitely go check that out at some point. That way, I can answer the question.
There you go. I'm glad you didn't just go, yeah, it's good.
I think I'm watching your stream as well.
Yeah,
which is weird because I'm talking to you live, but I'm seeing everything later.
Yeah.
So I believe Law Tender had a question for us that I do kind of want to answer.
Go ahead. Read it.
Okay,
read the question and then. I
didn't mean to hijack.
No, please,
your,
please.
But
if you
Law Tender says had a question before asking how he got into gaming. So when I scroll back up here. Let's see, where is it? What first got him into gaming? So that's actually, I fell in love with gaming with my Atari 2600, playing Pac-Man. And I've still got my entire retro collection downstairs in the basement, going all the way back to the Atari, my Game Boy Color, Super Nintendo, everything I've ever owned, I never got rid of when it came to gaming. So I've still got my entire collection. But what actually really got me hooked on it was I remember being a kid and I was laying in the floor next to my dad while he played The Legend of Zelda. And, before the days of Google where you could just, hey, how do you beat this level or where do you go to get through this level? He actually took grid paper and drew out every single square in every single dungeon as far as and you knew where the bomb holes were, where the keys were, where the secret items for the level were, where the boss was, what type of boss it was, how to beat it. And, in the overworld, he wrote down, he marked, if you remember the original Legend of Zelda game, it came with an actual overworld map, something that you don't get in games nowadays. And they had all the bush locations where you could burn the bushes down and reveal a secret set of stairs. And he would say what kind of thing was in there. Was it a reward of coins? Was it a guessing game or what, the different stuff that was in Zelda? So that is where I saw his passion for that and how much fun he was having with that. And that's where I fell in love with gaming, man. And it stuck with me, and I absolutely love playing games to this day.
Awesome, man. Well, cool. I think that, let's see, let me make sure. I think that's pretty much the questions from chat. Obviously, if you guys have any other questions, you guys can go to our stream. I'm going to link that right now. You guys can go there. Make sure you guys follow him, put notifications on, all that kind of stuff. It's really when you find somebody who's legitimate about streaming and passionate about streaming, not only streaming but also gaming, it's weird that that's rare on Twitch nowadays. And I think it's a powerful thing to see that from him. Were you going to say something? Sorry.
Right. Yeah, I mean, people can Twitter, Twitch, whatever. If you want to message me on either one, it's perfectly okay. I'm on Twitter most of the time. That's where most people message me at. But there was actually another question here.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
from it's Gager, I guess that's how
perfect.
You say
Yep.
Says, how do you grow a manly beard like that, or has it already been answered?
I saw it a couple times. So I was like, I don't know if we go into that or the amount of dedication that comes from that is going to be difficult.
We briefly touched on it early on in the. I've been working on this since September. So, so we're 6 months into this thing, 7 months, something like that. But at some point I'm just I will it to grow. I'm just you're going to grow today, But no, you have to comb it when you get out of the shower. You have to toothbrush. It's just like a woman's hair. Obviously I don't have much hair up here, but you have to shampoo it. You have to use conditioner. You have to use oils to keep it from, drying out too much, So that's how you do it, man. You just got to grow it.
Here's kind of like a really, I guess, controversial question.
Okay.
Do you need to shave your beard in order for it to come back stronger, or is that a myth?
I think when you're first starting out, like when I was 11 or 12,
when you grew your first beard at 11 or 12, are you kidding?
Yeah, I mean it's like crazy. I was in like 6th or 7th grade, and I was shaving. I mean, it was just crazy. But yeah,
that's awesome.
most people's a little later than that, but yeah, I think when you're first starting out and it's first starting to grow, the more you shave it, the faster it does grow back. But like once you hit a certain point where it's turning gray and stuff like this, it doesn't help to shave it. It doesn't grow back any faster. It's just that's the speed it's going to grow.
There you go. So for all you 12-year-olds out there, if you're not growing a beard already, I don't know what you're doing.
Oh yeah,
you're doing something wrong. You need to get out there, get some testosterone shots or something. I don't know. Well, hey, Hour, I thank you so much, seriously, for doing this. This is the first time that we got a chance to meet, and I feel seriously so privileged to have you on here. And it's been awesome.
We just met a couple days ago, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, but this is the first time we've talked, and I got into talk. Yeah. And so I think it's this won't be the last time for sure, man. I'm stoked to watch your journey in terms of the indie and retro gaming side of things, but not only with that, but also with indie dev world order, all that kind of stuff. It's been really, really cool.
Definitely, man.
Like I said, chat, you guys can go find him on Twitter, on Instagram, on he's even making TikToks. I'm just kidding. I don't know if you are. Just joking.
No, that's one thing I haven't ventured into yet.
But no, you can find him on anything as Hour a Day Gamer. But also make sure you guys look up Indie Dev World Order, which obviously I'm sure you can ask him about through his stream or through Twitter as well. So
definitely.
Thank you guys so much. So good.
If anybody out there is interested in trying some indie games and stuff, I mean, I could definitely make some recommendations, and you could kind of test out the waters and see what you think of the genre, and go from there. And maybe you want to try to get into it. So,
absolutely. Alrighty. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you guys in the next interview. The next interview is going to be on Saturday. We're going to continue stream after this, playing some games, but our next interview stream will be on Saturday with Law Tender. It's going to be great. Thank you so much for being our second interview on this channel. Hour, you're amazing, and we'll talk to you soon, dude.
What time Saturday?
Oh, Saturday. It should be around around the same time. Should be around 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. So.
Okay. That's 5 p.m.
I think
my
it
time.
is. I think it is. I'll definitely put out something.
I can catch that.
It should be around that time. I'll put out something. I might have just said the wrong time, but
definitely.
Alrighty, man. Well, thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye.